By the end of this video, you will be able to understand common terminologies related to web development, such as client, server, etc., and understand the basic steps involved in a client-server communication channel. Hey, welcome back. In the previous topic, we learned about websites, that is, what a website is and who creates a website. Let's now understand how we are able to view a website when we enter its corresponding URL in the address bar of a browser. Suppose you want to open Internshala's trainings website. You enter the URL trainings.internshala.com in the browser and the browser will send a request. Now, based on the request, you will get a suitable response, that is, the website will open. Now, let's understand this further. In this communication channel, the browser through which we send a request is called a client, and the point that receives the request and sends a response is called a server. We will understand more about this client-server communications shortly in this video, but let us first focus and understand these two key terms: server and client. Server in the simplest terms means anything that serves, or we can say anything that provides any kind of service. Let's understand with the help of examples. Suppose you want to eat chocolates. You will go to the grocery store and will buy one there. Here, in this case, the grocery store is the server. Or you're not feeling well, you go to a doctor who will prescribe you medicines. Similarly, here the doctor is the server. Idea behind quoting these different examples is to help you understand that a server always provides only a specific type of service, which we saw in the previous example. A grocery store will sell chocolates and not medicines, and vice versa. Now, let's move to our next term, client. The client is the one who asks and avails services from the server. Like when you go to buy the chocolate, you are the client, and when you go to see a doctor, even then you are the client. Therefore, we can say that these clients and servers always exist in pairs. Let's again come back to our chocolate example. This time, suppose your neighbor also wants to buy chocolate. Now, to buy the chocolate, your neighbor will also go to the same grocery store. Here, there are two clients, you and your neighbor, but the server is the same, the grocery store. This means a server is capable of providing service to multiple clients but of the same type. But note that servers always have specific types of clients associated with them, based on the type of services provided by the servers. So to summarize, a server is anything that provides any kind of service, and a client is the one who avails the service from the server. Hope now you have understood what do we mean by the terms client and server. Let's now understand how the communication happens between a client and a server. To understand this, let us again come back to this example. Here, we have a client and a server. So the communication first starts with the client who feels the need of a service. Next, the client then finds a relevant server that can provide the service it needs. After that, the client gets close to the server so that they can communicate with each other. Post that, the client then makes a request to the server mentioning what it wants. Now the server acts and processes the client's request. And lastly, once the processing is done, the server then sends a response back to the client. If the above steps sound too complicated, let me simplify this with the help of a doctor-patient example, which we discussed earlier in this video. Suppose you are a client who is not feeling well and you need to consult a doctor. This would be our first step where the client feels the need of a service. Next, you will find a nearby doctor who you think can help you with your illness. If you remember, this step is exactly the same as the second step which we discussed earlier, that is, client then finds a relevant server who can provide the service it needs. Next, you go to the doctor, which is the same as the third step, that is, the client gets close to the server so that they can communicate with each other. Then you request the doctor to diagnose you, which is again the same as the fourth step. Now the fifth step states that the server acts and processes the client's request. And here in this case also, the doctor acts on your request and starts the checkup. And finally, the doctor prescribes you the relevant medicines, which is basically the last step of the client-server communication channel. I hope now you have understood the steps that are involved in the client-server